Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise in strong support of moving to the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill, and I hope we do that with a vote today. This is very important in terms of governing, in terms of passing an appropriations bill for a vital part of government. It's also important to address and debate and vote head-on on President Obama's illegal executive amnesty, which he announced last December, that would give basically an amnesty to about 5 million illegal aliens with no basis whatsoever in statutory law. In fact, statutory law is opposed to that sort of executive action. Now, Mr. President, I find it ironic, the very same members, the very same party and ideology that is constantly beating the drum about, for God's sakes, we can't shut down the government, we can't have that sort of showdown, apparently are preparing to vote against even moving to this spending bill, which is necessary to fund a vital part of government. That makes no sense. We need to move to this spending bill, debate it, and act on it. Not moving to the spending bill is a vote for a government shutdown in that area of the government. And I think that's irresponsible. We need to move to this. Spending bills need to originate in the House. This is the House-passed spending bill for Homeland Security. We need to move to it. Furthermore, as is evident from the last couple of weeks, we're going to have an open amendment process. There are going to be amendments offered, available to be debated and voted on to do anything and everything with regard to this spending bill. The House put several policy provisions in the spending bill, including those that I agree with, like defunding this unconstitutional executive amnesty from December. I agree with that. I support that. I'll certainly vote to support it. But the point is, there'll be plenty of opportunities to vote on that, to potentially remove that, because we're going to have an open debate and amendment process, as we should, here on the Senate floor. So let's move to this vital spending bill. Let's not threaten to shut down government. Let's have the debate here on the floor, and let's vote. That's what we were elected to do, to represent our constituents, to debate major issues of the day. That certainly includes the president's executive amnesty, and to vote. If there's an effort to not allow us to even move to the bill to do that, I can only come to one conclusion: that folks voting that way, for the most part, support President Obama's illegal executive amnesty. They just don't want to have to say so, and they certainly don't want to have to vote that way. Well, sorry, you ran for the job, you asked for the job, you got it. And so let's do our job, which means putting the country's business on the floor of the Senate and acting, one way or the other, acting, debating, voting, proposing amendments, moving on with this essential spending bill for this part of the government. So, Mr. President, I will strongly support moving to the bill. That's the responsible thing to do. And then I will strongly support the provisions in the bill that the House enacted, including blocking the president's illegal executive amnesty. With regard to that, Mr. President, this is an important matter for two reasons. First of all, I believe this executive amnesty is really bad policy that is going to grow the problem, not solve it. You know, a fundamental rule in life is that when you reward something, you get more of it, not less of it, right? It's true of our tax code. That's true in parenting. Well, we're rewarding illegal crossings. We're rewarding that flow of illegal immigrants. And so we're rewarding that through the president's executive amnesty. It's only going to produce more of it. So that's my first objection to the policy. It's a very bad idea, and it's going to grow the problem, not decrease it. But my second objection is even more fundamental. I believe this action is clearly way beyond the President's executive authority, way beyond his true powers under the Constitution. The Supreme Court has said many times there is nothing that Congress has more clear, straightforward powers regarding than immigration policy. And it certainly includes anything like a major amnesty. And what the President did in December is not filling in the blanks of statutory law, is not executing statutory law. It's acting completely contrary to all sorts of statutory law. Statutory law is clear. It's on the books. It's been passed through a valid process. It's clear that folks who enter the country illegally, break the law, are here illegally, are subject to removal, and cannot work in the country legally. In contrast to that clear statutory law, President Obama first is giving them authorization to stay here for at least 3 years, and that can be renewed. And secondly, he's handing them a document that he's making up out of thin air called work permit, giving them authority to work, even though that is clearly contrary to statutory law, given the means by which they entered the country. So we need to put that issue, that topic, directly on the Senate floor and debate and act on that as well. But, Mr. President, as I suggested, the only way we do any of that is take a first responsible vote and put the House spending bill on the Senate floor. To vote otherwise is to block unnecessary spending bill, to basically threaten shutting down part of the government, and to avoid our responsibility in terms of debating and voting on the major issues of the day, to deal directly with that. So I urge all of my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, to put this necessary bill on the floor, and then we will have an open and a full debate. We will have an open amendment process. We will have all of the votes that go to this topic, and then we'll act. That's what we should do. That's what we were elected to do. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.